Welcome to In Search Of. I'm your host, Dave Esty. Today, we are discussing your dealership's most expensive employee. It's your website. It's open 24/7. It could be doing a lot of great work for you. Frequently, it's chasing your customers to the guy down the street. For a little bit of inside baseball, today we have invited Zach Billings from Wikimotive.
Thanks for having me.
And we've invited Lance Boehmer from Motive, which is one of the hot new platforms on the market. They've got a little bit of a different approach. So we thought we'd love to talk to him about how they're changing the way that dealerships are looking at their digital storefront.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Lance, a lot of dealers are spending thousands of dollars a month on these platforms, and they feel like frequently these platforms are an afterthought, or maybe they're on autopilot. They started as something that was sort of a hot new idea. Hey, we're going to do this different. We're going to do this better. Or in some cases, hey, we've been doing it the same way for 20 years, and now we've got so much spaghetti code going at this point that it's hard for us to really meaningfully improve things. How are we gonna get through the legacy tax that dealers are getting sort of saddled with on their web platforms? How should we be looking at this?
Yeah, well, I think you need to look at your website really as your first and foremost consumer experience, right? It's where 9 times out of 10 your customers start their journey. They maybe see an ad that you've served, or they are Googling something and organically your site populates, and then they come to your website, and it is your digital storefront. So your reputation starts right there with your website. And I think for a long time, right, even thinking back when dealer websites were kind of coming about, there was resistance to even have one. And then everybody bought in back in 2007, 2009, in that era, that they had to have a website. And so we've all got websites now, right? That's a hurdle that we've passed. It's now, how is your website representing your image and your style and how you want your customers to feel? Every day I talk to dealers, and they are so focused on customer experience at their dealership, and just providing just an amazing customer experience, because that's how you get shoppers to come back, right? They purchase a vehicle, or they purchase service with you, and you want them to be lifelong customers. You don't want them to be, one and done. And the same thing applies not just to the dealership, but it also applies to your digital storefront. And that is your website, right? That's where shoppers either find the vehicles that they're interested in. They then tell you, hey, I'm interested in this, by raising their hand and maybe submitting a lead. And ultimately then they come into your dealership, and you sell them a car, you help them transact on service, whatever it is. So really, I would encourage dealers to look at their website, and be critical of their website and their website provider. Even, I work for a website provider, but be critical of whoever it is that is managing your website, because you were right, David is one of your most expensive employees, to the tune of, probably $30,000 a year, at minimum, that you're spending just on your storefront. So it really should reflect how your storefront really feels in real life, and that should reflect online.
From dealer point of view, I've got this website. I see that I have a website. I click through, things move around. I see images. I might not like the images. What are the things that I might not even know about that I should be asking questions about, or I should be critical of, and be like, is this right? Is this good?
Sure. There are so many elements that have farther reaching implications for dealers, for converting people who are on the website, for getting people to the website and making the rest of your marketing more effective. Like, the website itself is a $30,000 a year investment. It's an employee unto itself. But what you also have to remember is that you're piping anywhere from $20,000 to $100,000 a month in advertising through that website. And if you land people that those expensive sessions on a website that does an ineffective job of being able to get out of the way of the consumer and let them find what they're looking for, that leads to an enormous amount of drag on that investment. So, you start with $1,000, or sorry, $30,000 a year is sort of your base, because that's just what you pay for the website itself. But then you could have $250,000, you could have $500,000, you could have $1 million a year in drag, depending on what you're spending in advertising, if you haven't thought about this on the site. And so the way that this plays out in data, for example, I look at a number of the legacy website vendors, and also situations, to Lance's point, where maybe the dealer just hasn't asked the critical questions in a while. And I'll go in and I'll look at, for instance, the data that you can see in analytics for just how frequently are people engaging with different CTAs. So for the dealers watching, think about a VDP. And on your VDP, you have somewhere between 3 and freaking 19 different calls to action. I hope it's towards the 3 end of the spectrum, maybe even 2, but many of you have 5 or 6 or 7 when you think about, all of your ancillary different tools that have been piled on there over time. And no one stopped to think, should I remove some of these? The website vendor, in most cases, has not put any guidelines or any framework in place to help keep that restricted down. There has been this sort of stagnation in the marketplace of not really looking at the data anymore. You don't see a lot of the website vendors thinking about, like, what does the measurement actually look like? And so what I'll see when I go into analytics is, there's 5 CTAs on a VDP and 2 of them are getting any significant activity. And what that actually means is you're creating some decision paralysis and dragging down conversion rate by just having a lot of clutter on there. So, there's that. There's things like page speed, the site just getting out of your way, minimizing the use of bloated third-party tools where it's possible. All of these things help with user experience, conversion rate, and also, therefore, the efficiency of the rest of your marketing.
What about, say, third-party tools that aren't even providing much information? I know that, we have the ASC standards where, GA4 came around. We saw an opportunity. It's like, hey, everybody, let's all get on the same board. Let's align on reporting structures and make sure, like, we're actually providing real value. There's still a lot of vendors out there that are either partially compliant or in some cases not compliant at all, which leads to some data black holes. How does a dealer navigate through these things to be able to ask, or even who do they ask, please get this figured out. I need to actually have this information.
Yeah, Lance, I know I've talked to you a little bit about some of the philosophy on this, and I like, as I recall it, your take on this, where things like ASC standard, the reality is it's not a one-size-fits-all thing for every dealer's situation. While it's a great ideal to try to have continuity in data across multiple types of tools, we do have all of these tools that aren't necessarily playing ball. And tell me again, like, you guys offer it kind of both flavors. You can kind of have your ASC events or not your ASC events if you want it differently. Is that how that works?
Yeah. So at Motive, our engineers have essentially we have a kind of internal motto here that, if you can think of it, there's probably a toggle for it in the admin platform. And so we have the ability to either toggle ASC events on or just standard website conversion parameter events that would feed into your GA4. So whether or not, I often see, I work mostly with our enterprise clients and our enterprise groups. And they like ASC because it's standardized across all of their dealerships, whether they are using Motive or one of the legacy providers, and maybe they might even have a combination of multiple different website providers just based on where people are at programmatically. And so we at least here we're really working to ensure that we can provide both worlds. So if you have your own standard set of parameters that you like to see in your analytics, your GA4, we'll send you our motive standard, and then you can modify from there in your reporting. Or we can send you the ASC events just as they're written and published throughout the entire industry.
True.
Very cool. And maybe just to cap that off for any dealers that are watching that don't spend all of their time digging through data, which is most because you're running stores and you should be, and that makes sense. Basically, this all just comes down to being able to understand, where did people click on the website? How did they convert? So that you can better understand how effective was your marketing, how effective is your website, what are people using to convert, and the ability to have some choice within this is critically important to being able to get the right data signals. We at Wikimotive, we spend so much time with our partners having to go, bang our head against the stone wall that we get at many of the legacy platforms, where like we need more events firing, we need more data visibility, and it can just be very difficult to extract that for the dealer. So it's great to have the option.
One thing from a data standpoint that we find really useful when we're reviewing performance, and when we think of performance differently, as we're not just reviewing your data, but how can we then transform your website to be simpler, more efficient, and more customer friendly, right? At the end of the day, this is your customer facing window looking into the dealership. So how can you provide your customers with what they want faster, and make that conversion path easier? And one big data point that we like to look at is, and this isn't firing like an ASC event. This is just something that hopefully your website provider can share with you. This is, what are the customers actually searching for? Are they searching for a specific model, or are they searching for a specific type of unit that you've got within your website? And maybe you're not prioritizing that. So at the end of every month, you should be asking, like, hey, what are shoppers most clicking on, right? That's where we can see the data in GA4, what CTAs are actually working. Let's remove the fluff CTAs that aren't really converting, right? Because as Zach said, like, you're creating essentially like paralysis by analysis for your shoppers, right? You want to give them a clear path forward, and that doesn't involve having 9 CTAs that say trade your vehicle in. I've seen it on a few sites. But it involves, looking at what are people converting on, and then what are they searching for? And then taking that data and prioritizing those units of inventory based on what shoppers actually are interested in. And when you prioritize that through just really easy calls to action and really easy maybe tags, we call them quick tags at Motive. Those little buttons at the top. So thinking about collections of inventory, when you prioritize collections of inventory that shoppers actually are interested in, and then you put a little bit of business logic to that as well. Maybe they're aging on your lot, and so you want to showcase the aging units a little bit better so that you're not hitting floor plan as much. That's what really helps shoppers convert, and that's when your website starts working for you. And it's not just something that you have to have, and you're spending a ton of money sending traffic to, but it's not actually doing anything for you.
That sets up the ability to do fine tuning of how you display your inventory to be able to better position what you have to move better. I also heard there something interesting, that the ability to know what people are searching provides an insight that also might be a tactical insight dealers can use when thinking about inventory acquisition and what you need to have on the lot, because you get this interesting maybe confirmation bias or lack of confirmation bias when you look at some data and you don't have that additional layer of what did the consumer go looking for on the website. So like sometimes when I'm working with one of my dealers, I'll help them figure out, which models are getting more or less attention. And you look at analytics and you see, okay, so if it's a Honda dealer, the CRV VDPs are getting lots of traffic, getting lots of internal visits, and the Pilot not so much.
Mhm.
But if you find out that it's just because they had a lot of CRVs and not a lot of pilots, that's a confirmation bias,
Mhm.
right? And what we didn't get in that data set was were lots of people looking for pilot and there just weren't enough pilots on the website for someone to be able to go to the VDPs? Is it just a symptom of inventory availability? So having the ability to see not only what are people searching from the standpoint of do I need to feature some inventory, but also from the standpoint of do I need to do something with allocation or with used car acquisition. I think that's an awesome insight to get.
Yeah, and it even helps your used car acquisition strategy with working with either your first party, like for example at Motive we have the ability to change potential valuations of vehicles on our trade tool that's built into our platform. But also then working with if you've got a third party trade tool, working with them to say, hey, we need more of that CRV, so we're gonna increase the value that we're going to provide people by, I don't know, 10%, 10, 15%, because we know that shoppers are searching for that. They are clicking on it. They want that unit. They want that type of vehicle within your market. Um, so I think your website can tell you so much about what your shoppers are interested in. You just really have to have a good understanding of what they're searching for and what they're clicking on. And but that you can't really have those insights if your website is just clunky and you're not providing an efficient pathway for shoppers to even give you that data at the end of the day.
For sure.
Speaking of understanding and clunky, let's talk about CRMs. You know, it seems like in so many ways, CRMs are an unfriendly business partner, where there's not a great signal to noise ratio. What are the steps that we can take to clean things up or provide an easier path to finding the needle in the haystack or making our teams more effective in reaching out to people based on advanced data or just different ways of looking at the data?
It's a great question. So CRMs, right? Every dealership has one, and they're somewhat of a necessary evil. I think in the last couple of years, you know, uh, Motive is not this, but we're a website provider only. Um, and platform. But you see the advent of like the customer data platform
Mm-hmm.
come into play, which kind of is the connector between uh, multiple different areas of your dealership and where you're spending money. So it's connecting your advertising to your website, to your CRM, to your DMS, and all of that combined then provides you within the CDP or customer data platform the ability to see a singular unified customer profile. And I think we'll start to see as these grow in popularity and become more efficient, we'll start to see a connection between CRM and CDP almost overlap in one sense. And where the website comes into play is just it really needs to send accurate data to both your CRM and your CDP, or if they're the same thing at one point,
Mm.
to that whatever we're gonna call that in the future, CDRM or something. And so for example, at Motive, what we do when we send a lead into a CRM currently, we also send the past five VINs that the shopper was looking at on the website. So you get a bigger picture
Mm.
of where that shopper is at. Maybe they only converted one time. We want them to convert multiple times, and we do that through kind of removing the uh, friction of having to refill out forms on a site, right? We pre-fill the forms for shoppers on our Motive sites once they filled it out once. Um, but if they only convert once, then your salesperson is left wondering, like, okay, they only want this blue Frontier, right? This blue Nissan Frontier. When in reality, that's just the one that they converted on. And they really have looked at three other vehicles and really spent a lot of time on that, those units. So you want to know that so that when you pick up the phone and call them, you don't want to be creepy and say, "Hey, I saw you're looking at these other cars." But at the same time, you can suggest other vehicles that they might be interested in, whether or not maybe their credit is a certain way or they're interested in a specific type of payment. You have options. And so I think that's where your CRM comes to play is like it's not important that you just got a lead and it lands in your CRM, but it is really important that you read the notes in the CRM because those notes can provide the salesperson or the BDC with just such valuable information. And then if you take it a step further, you leverage on like a customer data platform that can then help marketing understand, where am I spending my money efficiently, and our shoppers who are coming in through this specific maybe ad set actually converting, and then just not converting on the website, but because that doesn't just matter, right? Converting into an actual sale, like when you can equate your actual dollars spent to actual dollars made, that's where the real magic happens. But it's multiple tier, right? Your website should be helping your salespeople, and your kind of CRM and the full data stack should be helping the marketing team make better informed decisions.
So, Lance, are you saying it's a standard feature that if they converted through like a native motive module, form, whatever the case may be, one of the tools that you guys have baked in, if they converted through anything that you guys control, they're going to get those prior VINs that the person had looked at?
Yep, that's a standard practice that we have. We probably should talk about it more.
Yeah,
Um,
you should talk about it more. So I have to strip that back for a second. I did not know this, and we've seen a couple of dealers dabble in other tools that give that kind of insight, and it's rare. And so for everyone watching, I'm sure you've experienced the new old reality. We're kind of back to 2019 pre-COVID landscape, very much so at this point, where like you need to use good process, good showroom level salesmanship. You need to use good follow up. You need to be thinking about alternative vehicles and making recommendations. You have to do things to secure the appointment and then to secure the sale. It's not just as simple as they converted on, the blue Bronco and they're going to come in and buy the blue Bronco like it has been for the last few years. So to what Lance is saying here, for anyone not seeing how these pieces fit together so tactically, you get somebody who converts on your new blue Bronco. They get on the phone with you after you guys follow up, or you get them into the showroom, your working payment, and they realize the $57,000 Bronco is just going to have way too high a payment, but you know that they visited the VIN of the white used Wrangler that you had in stock. You immediately have something to pivot that person to that's going to be more realistic, and you know they had the interest. You have the ability to read their mind, and all that needs to happen there is your BDC rep or your salesperson that's engaging with that customer just needs to connect those dots by looking in the notes if they have that insight.
exactly, exactly. I've even seen dealers go so far as to uh, kind of understand, like maybe somebody did a pre-qual on the $57,000 Bronco, right? And they look at the credit and everything, and the dealer knows like maybe this deal's not going to happen with this type of vehicle, right? It's a reality you face every day. Uh, I've seen dealers go as far as understanding what those other VINs are and having those vehicles moved close to the sales floor, not just out of the back lot, right? They're actually, the Wrangler is now sitting, just 4 spots away. And so when they say, "Hey, we've got some other options," I'm more than happy to go show them to you. And you know that the shopper's already has some intent on a different unit, and so you can just better show shoppers exactly what they're looking for when they're in the dealership if you take that data set and just inform yourself with it. It takes a few minutes of extra, kind of table setting. But at the end of the day, like you're just making your shoppers have a much better experience, or you're providing them with a much better experience.
And this is how you get a lead close rate from 12% to 18%. And, increase sales by 50% with the same number of leads, and all you need to do is leverage little bits of data like this. And sometimes the answer to the how do I sell some more cars right now, we're as we're filming this, we're in the beginning of 2026. We just came through Q4. This is seasonally just a lower point in the market. And for the dealers asking, how do I sell a few more cars? The answer might be use some data insights like this that are available at your fingertips. Use partners that can provide you with the information that then enables that additional table setting at the showroom level.
Exactly.
You set something off in my head there with the idea of having a comp parked close to what has been identified as the target vehicle, because so frequently, like behaviorally, I'm not a normal vehicle shopper. When I show up your dealership, I know specifically the vehicle I want to see. We're going to go see that, and then I'm going to buy it because I already decided I was going to buy it before I got there. In 2020, I was just looking for a used pickup truck, and I was following a very like normal buyer cycle of like, show me some things, tell me about them, let's find the thing. And the number of dealerships where I was walking, a mile back and forth between vehicles because they had them just spread across the entire thing between new units and used units, that it was an exhausting process. Whereas if they just organized inventory a little bit more sensibly, it seems like you could make conversations much, much faster and make it much, much easier, and also not give me, the shopper, more time to second guess what I'm thinking, because you've already said, well, if this one's not the right answer, this one might be the one. And look, it's right next to us. Like, we can look at it immediately. It seems just that basic action that doesn't take a lot of energy comparatively. I mean, there's some sales tactics that take a lot, but this is a very simple, easy step that any dealership could take to just streamline things in a very meaningful way.
And Dave, it just rings true to the whole customer experience, right? If you can streamline and give customers what they want, first and foremost by understanding your data sets on your website platform, you're better informed there, right? It comes down to merchandising at the end of the day. Like, how are we better merchandising our inventory to help our shoppers? And how are we then removing friction, right? That friction of you having to walk a mile between separate units on your journey to purchasing a vehicle is a lot. And right, you can second guess yourself a lot in there, but if you can just go from vehicle almost to vehicle because that dealer is better informed, then you're more likely to purchase one of those vehicles quicker, and your salesperson can then turn and get another person in the door, another appointment set. The same thing rings true with your online experience, right? The more efficient you can make that, and the more shopper centric you can make it, by removing friction points. So by removing 5 different CTAs that cause decision paralysis, and by providing just a very simple way for your shopper to maybe fill out a form, and then go to another unit on the website, and magically that form is pre-filled for them. And you can do this through a number of ways using Motive, or there's even some customer data platforms that I understand can pre-fill forms like this as well. You're just removing that friction. You're allowing them to shop more, spend more time on your digital showroom, doing what they want to do, which is just kind of exploring vehicles, and checking out the different features. And then you translate that directly into your sales process at the store, right? By doing the same thing, removing the friction from the shoppers. But you have to have data that informs all of this. That's where it comes down to. Like, you can't just guess on it at the end of the day. We can try all we want, but you have to have data that actually informs you on this.
And critically, low friction data for the dealer, because there's a lot to juggle when you're operating a store. There's a lot to juggle when you're doing follow-ups. There's a lot to juggle. in general. And so just things like, it's, I mean, it's clearly, it's the ethos is low friction across the board, whether it's low friction filling out the form, whether it's low friction getting from one piece of inventory to another on the website or at the showroom level, and having most of that information either at the consumer's fingertips pre-conversion or at the dealership's fingertips, salesperson's fingertips at the showroom level.
So are we as an industry, so we were talking about 2009, everybody was sort of still buying into having a website in a real way. And then 2 or 3 years after that, people were saying, hey, you should have a website that's mobile friendly for the first time ever. And now really we're on websites that are a mobile first experience because we're all tethered to these guys. We've had all these inflection points. Are we at the inflection point where platform providers and auto dealers are really starting to understand that the user experience between the brick and mortar and the website have to be aligned and smooth and easy and just a beautiful experience front to back, because they'll keep the showroom's always going to look neat, clean. There's not a mop and a bucket sitting in the middle of the room. But you look at some of the websites and it's like, ugh. I don't know what's being looked at here. How did we end up with this as a homepage? What can we do to pollinate this idea more? How can we get people to understand that the importance of this?
I mean, I think the dealers that are watching this do understand the importance of
Sure.
it at the end of the day. They might come to every day when I'm talking to prospective new clients, they're coming to me because, I can just read off, frustrations. They feel their site is clunky, outdated. Uh, I had a dealer tell me yesterday it's a pain in the butt, in nice words, to just do any type of customization on their website. Uh, and so I feel like dealers, folks are coming around to this, right? That their website needs to be just efficient and simple and elegant, in a way that makes them stand out from the crowd, and it can't just look like everybody else's site. And um, so that's why they're talking to us. So I feel like dealers are realizing this. We kind of had the advent of like, you've got your website here, and I've worked for some of the larger legacy providers. I've worked for the two largest providers, and was in this back when things were super innovative. We had these providers come out, and super innovation websites were all the rage, and then I think probably around like 2019, it kind of just was like people were like, okay, we're just set, right? We've got our site. It's doing its job. Let's now focus on digital advertising, and other fancy features, like maybe digital retail became a super fancy feature
Mhm.
in 2020, right? When we're all staying at home. And kind of everybody took their eye off the ball, which was just the platform itself. Like, is your platform innovating? Are you able to easily update your website to be efficient and to be customer centric? Um, and if the answer is no, then I think the next response is, well, you should probably be looking at how you can do that, right? If there's someone out there that can help you, whether that's hiring a really innovative SEO company like Wikimotive to ensure that your organic strategy, which I think a lot of dealers miss out on all too often. You can send ads all you want, or you can potentially spend half the amount of money on your ads, and have a really good uh, search strategy, organic strategy. Um, and then to Zach's point, like once you've done that, where are you getting your shoppers? Are you landing them somewhere that they don't want to go, or somewhere that it's really hard for them to convert on? They've already converted once, right? They've clicked on the link, right? They've either organically found you, and they've clicked once. Um, And now you have to get them to click and fill out a form. And, are you going to send them through 10 clicks or are you going to send them through three more clicks to that pathway? Um, so I feel like dealers have, long-winded answer, but dealers are realizing this. Um, and they're demanding change. They're demanding modernization. And yeah, that's what we're always striving to do.
It does feel like we're at the beginning of a new surge in intolerance for uh, old stale platforms, and I think you recap that well. When digital retailing came on scene, everyone, or at least by then, everyone had forgotten that the website was important, and I'm looking forward to a mass resurgence of we need our websites in good shape. Let's look at those again.
Mhm. Yeah, I am too. It's been a crazy year just with of growth here at Motive, and so it's very evident to me that dealers want something that is modern. They want to have a platform that is continuing to innovate, and not just provide 15 different templates to them. They want something that they can be unique with, um, and I feel like that is not going to go away in the near future. There's no fancy thing that's coming out that is going to ever change the fact that people are spending more time on their phones and online, um, and that showroom, your digital showroom that you provide them, is just continuously becoming more and more important as you try and drive traffic into your actual showroom.
Speaking of innovation, if I were to pick anything out from 1 year ago, we're at NADA 2025. There's 5 inches of snow on the ground. New Orleans is ground to a halt, and it seems like 7 out of 10 booths in the hall are dedicated to AI. What is the approach that we should actually be taking with AI and our web platforms? What's the responsible way to use it? What's the way that some people try to sell something old as new because they just put AI next to the name when it's just the same old thing it always was. How do we navigate these waters and understand like where's the AI actually really doing something for us?
In a website world, well, even just outside of the website world, just talking to partners and friends who own dealerships, it's uh, is AI actually making life easier
Hmm.
uh, by making my job more efficient or helping my customers find what they're looking for more efficiently, or maybe more efficiently setting even an appointment. Um, and so that's the lens you have to look at anything when somebody says, "Hey, well, we've got AI, cool." Everybody says it, and everybody, I think, in some ways, are really trying to do this and utilize AI to make everybody's life more efficient, in a sense. You know, we are we've got the ability on the Motive platform to just prompt the skeleton of an entire page that you can then go in and edit and generate more content using AI, and generate just really rich page structures that then we can send over to our SEO company and they can make it even more customized based on the actual location of the dealership. That's just one way that AI can, help be more efficient. Also, AI search is huge, right? Thinking Google or wouldn't be putting out an AI search description if they didn't think this was the next wave of how they're going to do things. Um, and at the end of the day, there's no like magic bullet to uh, AI search, right? It comes down to the same exact strategy as your general organic SEO strategy.
Mhm.
Uh, Essentially just by being human and answering questions that folks want to have answers to. That's what your AI search overviews are showing. Um, so I'm always cautious if somebody's, selling something that's a strict AI strategy. because at the end of the day, AI is there to make life just a little bit easier and more efficient. And there's really no specific strategy you have to have when taking it into account, other than asking yourself, is this making the experience better?
Speaking of that, I agree completely that there is not a succinct, independent set of disciplines and optimizations that exist for AI optimization. Speaking as the SEO guy in the room, GEO is kind of a myth in that it's being talked about as being its own independent optimization methodology, and it's really very part and parcel with like a huge overlap in the Venn diagram with SEO. One of the areas that does keep on coming up in conversations, and it's actually debatable, very debatable from a GEO standpoint, how much it truly matters, but it keeps coming up, and it is at least technically accurate to talk about, is schema markup and the state of the ability to do schema markup on website platforms and automotive. How does Motive tackle this?
One thing that we're doing around this, and it's just recently, very recently rolled out, like literally, I think 3 weeks ago, our product team rolled it out internally, and we'll be rolling it out to clients really soon. There's a site auditor that actually audits for those types of mistakes, whether it's your phone numbers, your location, and then populates a full report card of every page that you have on your site and every bit of content that you have on your site, and flags where the bots essentially either couldn't crawl or saw something that was incorrect. And so what we're doing is we're actually sending bots to our client sites on purpose, right? We can trigger this with a crawl,
Mhm.
and we can identify where the mistakes are. And I think that then helps our partners, either whether it's, just direct to the dealership, or our partners who are helping a dealership with their strategy, their organic strategy, actually go in and say, okay, we didn't have to spend so much time identifying this. We can spend all of our time correcting it, and making your website just a much more efficient and productive experience. Uh, so that's what we're doing from at least a standpoint of like trying to help inform dealerships, of what's going on their site. Because you might have written a blog or a post or something, a page 3 years ago, and while it's still relevant, potentially, if updated correctly, then it would be even more relevant,
Mm.
and help your strategy. And it sounds like that's what you guys are doing, but you're often kind of running into brick walls. One thing that we do here a little bit differently too, just to help our partners and our clients, is we don't put restrictions on content. Even if an OEM has content that's dropped down to a site, we allow dealers to add to that content on a page. Um, there is like OEM wants this specific paragraph on the page, but at the same time, it's just a duplicate page across all the same providers.
Mm-hmm.
And Google might see it that way. So if you don't have the ability to add content, it doesn't get crawled, or it just gets, written off as a duplicate page. And so it doesn't ever show up in search results. We provide the ability for you to go in and actually add content blocks to that, and the page won't break, right? It will continuously get updated with the OEM content, and you'll also have your custom content on that. So just a couple different ways that we're trying to help this puzzle.
Yeah, and if I can interpret a piece of that for dealers who don't have to run into this frequently firsthand, but probably don't realize that their provider who's doing all of the content work is running into this, is that in most cases with OEM fed pages, particularly a lot of the navigational pages on the site, you'll get locked content. And so we, as an SEO provider doing custom content, will go into some legacy platforms and you run into these locked pages. And then that creates either a friction point to be able to make those updates that you're talking about, Lance, or we get to the point where, even more clunky, you have to write a new page and then go redirect the old page or canonicalize it. And it's a messy way to do things. And it's much better to be able to take that great, correct, updated content the OEM is pushing, but to your point, make it custom, because for anyone who's watching, to Lance's point, if you just have the same OEM provided piece of content as every other website of your make, that piece of content, that page doesn't get any organic value. Google doesn't ding you for it. They don't respect it either. So you don't get any benefit from it. It has to be customized, and the ability to do that is really important.
Yeah. And if you're not customizing it, the only way you're really getting traffic to it is by spending a lot of money in paid ads. Uh,
Yep.
and so just, yeah, you have to be able to customize your site. We kind of believe that to be true for your entire site. We even allow dealers, in most cases, after they've been trained, to edit their homepage as well. We don't want to restrict your ability to customize and make updates to your website.
That's great. So as time is ticking down here, I want to have a takeaway for the dealer GM or the marketing director who's listening in their car right now. When they get to the office, what is one thing that they should try to do on their existing platform that will help inform them whether they should look for a change? Is there one like real smoking gun that will tell them like this really isn't working for me? I really should be checking out some other options.
I would say take the shopper journey and navigate directly from your homepage. See how easy it is to navigate from your homepage to the easiest way to get to your inventory, whatever that is. Question, is this as easy as it could be? And then when you're on your inventory, scroll through that inventory and see if you come to the bottom of your website as well. Ask yourself, how often do you click on page 2 of Google? So how often are your shoppers clicking on page 2 of your inventory? And then from there, ask your provider to provide more inventory on your search results page. That's something that you can do right off the bat that will help keep shoppers on your site longer.
Mm.
And from there, continue down the shopper journey, right? Check out your CTAs. Do you have calls to action on your site that don't look like your website or are clunky in a way that they take a long time to load? Google pretty succinctly has put out the data that says that if something takes more than 4 seconds to load from a user experience side, shoppers just leave. They go away. They bounce. So if you provide things that take more than 4 seconds of frustration in time, then your shoppers are leaving, right? And so you just want to ask your provider, how can I make this more efficient? And if your provider can't answer that, or you can't get them on the phone, then that's when you should potentially start looking at a new provider who can answer those questions.
Cool. Zach, hot take?
I wholeheartedly agree with what Lance said, and the one piece I'll add to it, because those are really my hot button things too. I would add, after you're done going through it yourself, trying to think like a consumer, have a friend or family member who is not in the business do the same thing and gut check you. That we are too close to this. We are entirely too close to this, and even I think I'm guilty of that at times, where like I know how to navigate dealer websites because I'm in them every single day, and it can smooth the feeling of that experience because you know where to go within your own existing website. You're constantly marketing directors, GMs, dealer principals that are listening to this. You are constantly manipulating your website. You're looking at your pricing. You're looking at your inventory in some way, shape, or form for one purpose or another, and it creates passive familiarity. You need to get somebody who just does not do this to tell you where they got stuck or what was annoying, because you will quickly find there are a whole lot of things that you didn't realize were a problem yourself when you did the check.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. So it's so important to validate through somebody who just doesn't work in our industry. Yeah, cannot stress that enough. Thanks,
So,
Zach.
so this Again, I'm hearing the parity of between your brick and mortar and your digital presence. You would mystery shop your people on the sales floor, but you're not mystery shopping your own website and getting a report back on, does this work? What's the experience? Are there big time delays that make it harder to do business with it? That seems like a simple concept that people should be really able to act on.
It really is. At the end of the day, try and reduce the clutter. That's the number one principle. Reduce the noise and make things more efficient. And you have to do that by mystery shopping. Like sometimes we have to remove our own ego from whatever we're doing, right? In any way, sense, shape, or form. Where there is our process, because we've been doing it forever, that's where ego lies. And if you let ego just sit there, then you don't get progress, or you don't get innovation. That's where lack of innovation comes in. So I think if we can just take ourselves out of this a little bit, and maybe just hand the phone to a customer or a friend who might be shopping for a car and ask them what kind of experience they would want, they'll tell you, and they'll tell you exactly where you're going wrong.
That's great. Well, this wraps up the time that we have for this episode. Lance, really, really appreciate you coming on. Appreciate your perspective on this as being sort of an insider on the other side of the wall from Zach, and we understand why there's a wall between everybody and Zach. Zach, appreciate your time as well and your input. Hope, Lance, that you have a fantastic vacation, and we'll see you at NADA 2026. No snow this year.
NADA. Thanks everybody for your time.
Awesome.
Thanks, Lance. Thanks, Dave.
Bye, everybody.
This has been In Search Of, a Real Conversations in Automotive podcast, hosted by Dave Esty and Zach Billings of Wikimotive. In Search Of is a Wicked Media production, with audio-visual engineering by Farrell McElravy, produced by Jason Cook.